anyway, I'm going to call the meeting to order and indicate for the record that all of the council members are present. We are joined via video by our assistant to the city manager, Laura Hoffmeister. Our city manager is taking a few days off, and so Laura is sitting in tonight. We also have Police Chief Warren with us, and we have our Assistant City, Martin is our Assistant City Attorney, and he now has video. Awesome. So, okay, I've got an echo here somewhere. That doesn't make sense. All right. Okay, so we have on our agenda, the next item is, yes, we didn't list it, Jim, but we'll do it. Jim, we will ask Councilmember Diaz to lead us in the pledge to the flag. Please let Jim do the reciting so that we don't sound like a mumbled mess. Jim will say the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. The next item on our agenda is public comment, and I guess we are live. I do not see any attendees yet. So hopefully they are able to log in if they want to. But we will come back later if somebody shows up and offers them that opportunity. The next item on the agenda is our single action item for this evening, and that is to adopt a resolution for the expansion to the Dana Hills neighborhood and modification of the amended Regency Drive and Rialto Drive preferred parking permit pilot program. And we have a report from Chief Warren.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'll just go over some of the highlights of my staff report. Back at the April 21st council meeting, council amended the permit parking pilot program, expanding it from Saturday, Sunday, and federal holidays to all days and hours, and expanding the permit area to include the end of Regency Drive where there are no homes facing it. And that was after numerous complaints from residents on Regency Drive about increased traffic and quality of life issues, including trash and pedestrian traffic and people not adhering to the public health orders. So since the expansion or the temporary measures were taken on April 21st, really the problems on Regency Drive have been solved. We are not getting calls from the neighbors. We're issuing probably a quarter of the number of parking citations that we had previously, but we're now seeing these same problems on Montero Parkway. So people that are now not able to find a parking space on Regency Drive have figured out how to get to Montero Parkway, and they're using that bottom portion of Montero Parkway to park, and those residents are experiencing the exact same thing that the residents on Regency Drive did: increased traffic, difficult to pull in and out of their driveways, trash, etc. So one of the residents on Montero Parkway started a petition, and she got a few residents to sign it, and she came to council last meeting during public comment, amending her petition a little bit just to include that last portion of Montero Parkway and asking for some relief. And so, I went out to Montero Parkway, and it would be really difficult to enact permit parking there because there's no infrastructure. We don't have existing sign poles. Trying to use A-frames would either block the street or the sidewalk or have to be put on people's yards. The A-frames that we have out on Regency Drive have been vandalized twice now. People are cutting and pulling the signs off. We had to replace them again today. So, there's a potential for that as well if we tried A-frames on Mount Air. What I recommend is to scale back the permit area to what it was before April 21st, which would open up about 16 parking spaces at the end of Regency Drive where there are no homes, and would relieve some of that pressure for people to find parking spaces on Mount Terre. And I also spoke to Ryan Goring this morning, and the state parks are going to open on Friday, so the South Mitchell Canyon parking lot will be open for this coming weekend. And I've asked that he prominently place on the Mount Diablo website that the parking lot is going to be open, and please park there and don't impact the surrounding neighborhoods. So I believe with the opening of the parking lot, with the increase in summer temperatures, if you scale back the restricted area to allow those 16 parking spots, that Mount Terre will find some relief from the problems that they're having. And then we could potentially study further expanding the permit area once we have more information and we can really decide how far back we would go onto Mount Terre. And that's basically what I have.
Hey, any questions for the chief? Julia?
Yeah, I have a question. So in terms of the current parking program, did most of the residents along Regency and Rialto acquire their permits before the shelter in place? And approximately how many of the, I think is it 43 homes that are on those streets, approximately how many homes applied for permits?
All but 12. And they all did it at the beginning of the program. One or two stragglers maybe a month into it, but we have not had any recent applications.
Okay, thank you.
DW?
Yeah, on the Mount Terre Parkway, I'm looking at this. Are the after Trinity, Mount Trinity, are those houses facing the street? I can't tell in this picture, but are they facing Mount Terre Parkway from Trinity back toward Mount Everest?
From my map, no. It looks like their driveways face Mount Trinity and Mount Sierra. Those last houses on the corner.
Even that first house. Yeah, I took a drive up there and I looked around, but I don't remember if those were actually facing. And
which ones were you asking about, CW?
I'm asking about from Mount Trinity back toward Mount Everest. Those few houses in that square. Are any of those houses actually facing? It looks like the one on the corner.
They don't.
Pardon me,
Carl. They don't. They do not. There's one house on the corner.
Just on the corner there?
They on the corner of, I want to get this right. I got to get my east south correct here. On the northeast corner of Mount Terre and Sierra.
Okay.
So the furthest on the right, that one faces Mount Terre Parkway.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Okay.
The other two on Trinity face each other, and then the one on the corner, the southeast corner of Sierra, faces Sierra.
Faces Sierra. Okay, thank you.
Or fronts to Sierra, I guess.
That's it for now. I noticed there are some participants too, Julie, so attendees.
Yes,
so maybe
we
there's
have some attendees.
maybe there'll be more comments. So I would like to reserve time after we have some public comment if we do.
Okay. Any other questions immediately of the chief?
So yeah, I have a question. I have a question. So I'm reading through the recommendation on the staff report. I just want to be clear. So the only recommendation here is to eliminate the extension of the permit area to the very end of Regency Drive, where there's no house, where it does not face any houses. That's the recommendation on the table. It's not about the days of the week or the time of day. It's not concerning Mount Terre at the moment. It's only for that one area at the end of Regency.
Yes, that is my recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Do we ask questions of staff now, or do we wait now that
You
we
can ask
just can
the
see
clarifying
Laura's?
questions of staff. We'll get into the discussion after we ask for public comment.
Okay, because all I could see is the top of Laura's hat, so I didn't know who I might be talking to.
I just sent her a text. There she goes. She got it.
Hey, that means she heard us too. That's a good thing.
So clarifying questions of staff,
Yes.
for instance, like the talking about the infrastructure here, you're saying that there's no poles and things. It would be incumbent upon us then to add poles here, which means we would have to come up with some kind of budget, right?
Right. That's
Okay.
correct. And there's a 3-week lead time from the time we order the poles,
Right.
and then we would have to install them. And just along the infrastructure lines, the city hall is not open to the public right now. So we would have to collect all of the permit applications and fees and documents via mail, and, be able to issue permits. So, it took us 3 months to actually institute the program from the time council approved it for Regency and Rialto. And I foresee if we expand the program into the Dana Hills neighborhood, it's going to take a minimum of 3 months to get it up and running.
Okay. I guess I'll reserve the rest of my questions till after public comment.
Okay, I do have one question for the chief and for our assistant to the city manager. How practical do you think it would be to add some signs at the bottom of both streets where the barricade is at the end of each street, indicating that the Mitchell Canyon parking lot has reopened as of Friday, the 29th? Do you think that would help to redirect some of the traffic? I mean, we could post those on some barricades down there anyway, right?
Yes, those can be done, and you can always see how it goes. I mean, it's just on a barricade.
I mean, it would at least give people another option. I'm thinking if we did nothing and did that, that might be a possibility. Okay, let's
help spread the word through a sign for a while to let people know that the Mitchell Canyon, please use the Mitchell Canyon parking lot, that it's open.
Yeah, because I'm not convinced that a lot of people go on the Mount Diablo State Park website to find how to get into the park. I mean, most people just go. So, okay, let's go to public comment. And for those who are attendees and listening in, I see we have 5 people. We have someone on the phone. And if you want to raise your hand from a phone, you hit *9. And the rest of you will have a icon where you can raise your hand if you'd like to speak under public comment. I'll give you a second to.
Mayor, are you able to see their hand raised?
I can.
Perfect.
If they raise it, they haven't raised them yet. Aha. The caller ending in 6913, your hand has been raised and you are, can you unmute them, Laura?
No, I cannot.
Okay. Caller,
All right, try it. See if you can. I added you as co-host.
Caller, can you go ahead and talk and let's see if we can hear you. I'm not hearing you.
Yeah,
Okay, let me see.
I don't know where it is.
It should be under participants, Laura.
I can't get out of the Zoom viewer webinar to the function screen. It won't let me.
Oh, there they are, participants.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's under attendees and I don't see me as a co-host either.
Excuse me.
Right. It'd be a lot easier if this is on computer.
So,
Yeah.
okay. This is problematic.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to take a chance here and let me ask my assistant city attorney a question. If I give my cell phone number to this caller or any of the folks, since we can't figure out how to unmute them, and they want to text me a question and I read that question, is that safe?
Why can't you
I can't hear you. You're muted, Martin.
Giving your number, there may be some implications with doing that. Some
I mean,
privacy.
it's my privacy, right?
Right. And there's also some statutory grounds about disclosing it, but because you are the one that is disclosing it, I think at this time, if you feel like that's the way to get the public comment for this meeting.
I'm trying to find a way they can participate, and this is a hot issue for them, so I want them to be able to participate.
Yeah, I mean, this is not like any sort of request or anything that from another party, so.
Right.
Yeah, these are different circumstances.
All right, so.
Maybe one suggestion, Mayor?
Yes.
If you're going to give them your phone number, maybe call them and put them on speakerphone and hold it up to your speaker.
That won't work because we'll get an echo.
Oh.
Could they call another number, like the clerk's number, and then the clerk reads it out? Or
could we do that, Laura?
Yes, you could. And I just want to tell you before we started the meeting, I had 6 people that had registered. Judy Mallory, and they may not want to speak. Judy Malley, Cecilia Hartley, Ted Merriam, Christine Mueller, Kathleen Wolf, and Dan Katzman.
Okay. I only have 4 people, 1 phone caller ending in 6913, Terry Denzo, Tamara Steiner, and Peter Cloven. There was 1 other person signed on earlier, but they have dropped off.
Okay.
So you said Janet is there?
Yes, she is.
Could she answer the physical telephone at the 673-7300 line?
73. Janet, you want to give a number to call?
Yes, the number to call would be 925-673-7304.
Okay, so if somebody wants to speak under public comment, I know this is clumsy, but we're trying to get you in here. So again, that number is 925-673-7304. That is a landline, and you will reach the city clerk, who can then relay your comment to us.
Oh, he just dropped off, so he's calling.
Yep, I think so.
Yeah. Or she.
You may wind up with stacked up phone calls, Janet. Or they gave up on us, one or the other.
Okay, at this time I have only 3 showing as attendees.
Right. 2 people have dropped off. The one who was trying to call in just dropped off, and they may be trying to call Janet.
Okay, my phone is ringing right now.
Good.
Sounds like a pledge drive.
It does.
Call now, call often. Operators are standing by.
Hopefully that wasn't her daughter calling to ask if she can have something.
Oh. Okay, Mayor. I have Judy Molly on my speakerphone at the office, so we'll see if she can speak, and I have my cell phone up to the phone. So go ahead, Julie.
Hi there. Sorry for the hassle.
Oh, can they hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead and talk.
Okay. So first I would like to indicate that the map that was attached to the agenda tonight is incorrect. The address of 303 does not exist on Mount Terre Parkway. There's only 6 houses on our street at the end.
So 303 is facing
Mount Sierra, I think.
Okay.
Correct. It doesn't. The driveway doesn't face Mount Terre Parkway. It faces their street.
Okay. Do you have any other comments? Go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to make the comment that I agree with the chief that the signage needs to be removed at the end of Regency. so we can redirect traffic. And I'm not sure, I guess it's a question for you guys, is whether or not that signage ever goes up. Is it just a temporary thing that the signage was placed there because of the shelter in place?
Yes.
Are you talking about the barricade signage?
I'm sorry?
Are you talking about the barricade signage?
Yes.
Yes, that's temporary.
So that was only put up with the shelter in place, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, yes, if that can be removed, I think it's a huge start to the problem that we're experiencing down at our houses. But I don't want to overlook the fact that we do need the signage the same way the residents do on Regency.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Any other comments?
No, I think that that's it. I think that's it.
Okay.
You know, addressing the map issue because it's not quite right, and then opening up the vacant lot area, only the vacant part, so people can park there, and then eventually putting up the signage for our 6 houses.
Can you answer a question for me, Judy? Do you know which side of the street the fire hydrant's on the bottom of Mount Terre Parkway?
Yeah,
North
I
side.
do. At the bottom, it's at 313. It's between 309 and 313.
Okay. But there's not one at the
It's
very
the north.
end.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Is there one at the very end?
It's in between the 2 houses. So
Okay.
it's in between the one at the very end and the one next to it. So if you're going down the hill, it's going to be in between 309 and 313.
Okay.
We don't have a 313.
Yeah.
But you know what? I hate to say this. There was a problem because you cannot see the red paint on that fire hydrant. So
Understand.
people are parking in the fire hydrant.
Right. Right. We got that in your email earlier. Okay. Thank you, Judy. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and call back in so I can go ahead and listen to the rest of the meeting.
Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any other public comment, folks? I see Terry Denslow has raised her hand, and the same thing, Terry, you're gonna have to call in.
A minute, let me try this.
Yep, there you go.
Now,
Okay,
Terry.
wait a minute. Unmute. Okay, Terry, talk. Let's see if it works.
Yeah, you can hear me now.
Oh, yep, Laura found the right button.
Yeah. I think there was an issue at the beginning trying to get into the Zoom, and so the folks that are live streaming and calling in might be having a problem with the audio. But the Zoom seems to be working now. If other folks want to try and get in that way.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyhow, just a super quick comment. I don't have I don't have a comment or a thought preference on any permit changes on the Regency side or on the Mount Terre side. I just wanted to encourage with the council the opportunity to look at longer term solutions with seeking out with the park. There is in the Mount Diablo State Park general plan, there is a section noted that there was 6.7 acres, including 25-foot wide public road easement in the Regency Meadows area that has been identified in the general park or the general plan as an opportunity longer term to work with Clayton to improve access to the park. Therefore, a long-term solution, alleviating some of these continued concerns in the neighborhoods. and is also as part of Clayton's general plan. There's a notation that Clayton will look for opportunities to work with the state in providing access to those facilities. So just encouragement. And I've got a lot of information on this if folks are interested in following up. I've got a ton of documentation that I've dug out of the archives in the last year that might be an opportunity for collaborative work with the park and the city longer term.
Okay, thank you, Terry. Okay, does anyone else who is tuned in want to raise their hand and speak under public comment on this item?
Do have a phone number that's there, but their hand's not raised, so we can.
No, she's the one, that was Judy Malley. She just finished talking to us.
She came back on. Okay, got it.
Yeah, she dialed back in so she could hear what we're saying.
All right.
Okay. I don't see anyone else raising their hand. So we will close public comment period and bring it back to the council. Let me just kick off a couple of ideas, and I thought about asking Terry, but that would have gotten into a long discussion, and that's not quite appropriate in this meeting. But if Mount Diablo State Park has an access planned at this location, I'm betting they don't have money for it, but even if they do, it would be nice for us to research it and find out where their intent was to put it. I'm looking at this map and looking at where the fire trails are and trying to figure out where on earth it would actually be if there is a viable spot for it on their property.
And staff can certainly follow up with the state park. I know some years back there was a general discussion about that, and it actually did not proceed, as far as I knew, anywhere due to a lot of constraints that was kind of tabled.
Yeah, I'm guessing so too, looking at this. It's hard to see the contours on this aerial photograph, but we all have been out there and it's not an easy location.
But we can certainly check in and find out what the status of that contract is.
Yeah, and if there's any potential for funding for it, we don't have any, but maybe the state park does. And then, because if they had a potential access point from somewhere to get onto their property where they could put a parking lot.
I think there are two things, if I recall, and we'll check with them, but there's accessibility issues based upon where the Dana Hills HOA land is and where it goes to, and then the environmental constraints for the creek area and the other riparian corridor areas that I think turned out to be that it was tabled.
I think
we can check with them.
As I recall, that's correct. So I think we will ask staff to follow up on that, and you can contact Terry. Terry raised her hand again, but I think
we'll be happy to look at the information she has if she wants to connect with us.
Right. Terry will ask you to work with city staff to help dig up that information. I know you're a docent out there, so that will be helpful. That doesn't solve tonight's problem, however, which is what do we do for the folks on the end of Mount Air Parkway? So thoughts from the council. Who wants to go first?
Wait, can I circle back for a second? Is that access to put a park south of Regency and Mount Air, or is that access to put a parking lot in between essentially Dana Hills and the folks on El Molino so that they could drive through into a parking lot in between all the houses and then walk into the park? I'm not sure what's being
we're not clear
what was being discussed.
Yeah, we're not clear either.
That's not on the table tonight. That was just something for staff to look into, and we can get back that clarification to the council.
I will just tell you my opinion on that idea. If they want to build it in the canyon between our two subdivisions, my answer is no and no and no. So if they want to find a place on their property, maybe.
But that would yield like through traffic onto the property for parking, right?
And it depends on where it would come from and all that kind of thing. I have no idea how they'd access it. That's why we'd have to find out first. I'm not optimistic, but let's see what they have in mind. But to deal with the problem right now, do you have some thoughts on that, Jeff?
Well, the way I look at it is the extension to the bottom of Regency was put in place in response to shelter in place. And so I know that the shelter in place rules are, they're not static, let's say. They change. And so I don't know, are we still at a point now where people are not supposed to travel outside their area? I can't keep up with all the updates. It seems like there's a different update every day. So, and so if
The
that
next
situation,
Who was answering that? Was that you, the chief?
I think Laura was, and she froze.
Laura, you froze.
Laura got very still. And so I guess the way that I'm thinking about it is that if the shelter-in-place rules that were in effect that prompted the change are unchanged, then I would treat the Mount Terror situation, I mean, it's almost independent of Regency. So yeah, I mean, I think those factors that existed prompting the extension, if those are still in place, then that would be somewhat persuasive. I'm curious to see like what the cost of replacing those signs are when they get destroyed, vandalized, or taken. But I'm not sure that. Well, I don't know. It would probably relieve some pressure on the end of Mount Terror. I think that's true. I just don't know how much. And then separately, I think there was a recommendation to place another sign that's saying that when the Mount Diablo parking lot is open, to direct folks there. Didn't Mount Diablo State Park like yell at us for doing that? I thought they didn't like that when we did that. We had on one of the signs we put, "Go over there and here's the parking," and they're like, "You got to take that down" or something.
No, they didn't want us using their emblem. The sign is still there at the end of Regency, directing people to the South Mitchell Canyon parking lot, but they were upset that we used their emblem, so we had to cover that.
Okay. It's a logo. Okay. It's different. It's very serious. All right. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think if there were no shelter-in-place rules, which hopefully is very soon because, reasons, then I would think, the end of Regency parking availability is a good compromise for access and residents. If there are shelter-in-place rules, then I would say that those reasons still exist. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, but I'm open to being persuaded.
CW?
Okay, I agree with that. As far as I know, the shelter-in-place rules are still in place. In fact, over Memorial Day, they were talking about, stay in your own area, don't go. I even heard the weather person on Channel 2 correct herself saying that it's going to be hot inland, but it's going to be cool at the coast. So if you're coming to the coast, that's the place to be. And then she had to correct herself. Only if you live there. So I think that since we put the Regency in place, the end of Regency in place, according to the chief, the calls have pretty much dropped off. And so I wouldn't want to create an additional problem that we tried to alleviate in the first place by taking away what we've added here. That stuff is in place now. However, I will say, given the long term, once those shelter-in-place orders go away, we have to go back, I think, to our original pilot plan, because we're studying that, and I think that's something we need concrete data on when the pilot program is over before we make any changes permanently to that, one way or the other. I don't think that the 6 houses now, I guess it's 6 houses, not 7, at the end of Mount Air. I feel for them. I think that what we need to do is, well, first of all, I have a question with regard to Laura, because how long are we going to keep the parking lot at the community park closed? Given the fact that Concord, for instance, I went to Newhall Park and I was surprised to see Newhall parking lot is open there. Do we not have some kind of discretion with that end
Yes, we do. The chief and I were talking about that today, and we were going to consider what the county health officer might provide for some information on some of these other things, because they're talking about recreation program adjustments as well. So it may open up a couple of other areas for public use of public parks.
Well, I guess I'm asking you because of the Concord connection, why Newhall is open and our...
It had not been, and I don't know why. It just was recently done.
Okay, so my suggestion here, maybe just far-fetched, would be to open the lower part of our community park as a parking, and now with Friday, with the parking lot for the park opening up, or Mount Diablo opening up, this may become a moot point. So I would suggest we open that, direct people to both the community park parking lot, the lower part, keep the upper part closed, and also to the Mount Diablo parking lot. And since they'll have two alternatives there, leave the end of Regency alone and give it a chance. Let's see what happens when all of this opens up to relieve Mount Air. If this continues, I would suggest that not only the Mount Air people, but the people on Mount Trinity and that whole area band together and decide what it is they really want. Because those 6 houses at the end of Mount Air, while they're directly affected now, that is going to push things on to Trinity, and everywhere else is going to keep backing up and backing up. So that would be my suggestion at this point. I know that we've received lots of communication from the people on Regency to keep this permanently, and even some odd threats with regard to this, which I don't respond to. But nevertheless, I think leaving things alone on Regency is the way to go now. Let's look at Mount Air, as Vice Mayor Wan said. Let's look at Mount Air as a separate problem, and maybe, given the opening up this week of other parking lots, this may go away on its own. And if it doesn't, we can always revisit this. And seeing, as the chief said, there's 3 months before we could even get anything going for Mount Air, with the exception of maybe keeping these A-frames up or putting additional police traffic through there. There's not going to be an immediate fix anyway. So I think it's going to be a COVID problem, and it's going to work itself out with the shelter in place. So that's my suggestion. Take a look at that community parking lot at Community Park and see what we can do with the lower half, so we can open up some parking there.
It's not a problem.
Jim?
Wasn't there a reason why that community park was closed off? Maybe the chief can respond to that. Wasn't there some issues up there?
Yes, we closed it because early on in the health orders, we saw high traffic at the park, and people were playing volleyball games. They were doing CrossFit in groups. The cars were coming from, all over the county. It was probably one of the few big open spaces available. So that's where we saw the egregious violations of the shelter-in-place orders. I'm not completely opposed to opening up the bottom and seeing what happens. I'm just not sure that people would know to go there. We could put up signs, but I'm not sure that how successful it will be. But I don't really object to trying it. Although we would need to wait till the end of the week, because the middle school is going to be doing, for the next 2 days, book returns, and so we're going to be using that lower parking lot to accomplish that.
Thank you.
Other council comments?
One other thing about Mount Air, I know that the 6 houses that are on that street, I think they're all in favor of a similar program on their area. I would strongly recommend that they, like as Councilmember Wolf said, I would strongly recommend that those folks get together with the folks on Mount Trinity and Mount Sierra, because I think that, and even possibly even Mount Everest, I think that represents a natural aggregation of area. Because if you were to just limit 6 at the end, you would certainly have you would encourage spillover. But if you limit more than that, if you limit a sufficient amount, then I think it has a more discouraging effect. And it's just a question of finding the right balance. So if the folks at the end of Mount Terre if they're very serious, then I would recommend that they organize and contact their other neighbors on the adjacent streets to garner their support as well, because I think that makes more sense. And I would be totally supportive of that. So if the residents wanted that by some kind of majority, some kind of strong majority. So that's what I'd recommend.
Jim?
Yeah, I would concur. However, I was up there on Saturday, and I got to tell you, those 6 houses, they had no parking in front of them. In fact, some of the residents have, and even in some of the emails that we've gotten, have stated that they've had to diagonally park on their driveway to make sure that they don't lose access in and out of their park or their driveway. And the visitors are actually encroaching back up to to Trinity Court and to Mount Sierra. So I agree with it. The neighbors have to get together and come up with some sort of a plan on how they want to address all that, and I would be supportive of that as well. But it's getting congested up there.
It certainly is. I think we lost Tuya. Oh, there she is. She's on the phone. Tuya, do you have any comments? I had one if you don't have any. Tuya, are you there?
We don't have her. I don't have her.
She shows on the bottom of my screen. Anyway, I will go ahead and make a comment. I am a little concerned about how far this is going to go, because I was up in the area a couple of weeks ago when it wasn't even the Memorial Day weekend, and there are people parking on, I hate to give it away, Mount Duncan, because there's a trail access from the end of Mount Duncan down the hill to the trail that goes into the park. And so there were probably half a dozen cars parked on Mount Duncan. The houses there don't front on Mount Duncan at that location. They're all side facing, either on the Mount Terre Parkway or Mount Sequoia Place or Court. But there were quite a few cars there, as well as a lot of the people who live in Dana Hills were walking down there. But there were quite a few people who came and parked, and some of them even had out-of-state plates and things like that. Not that that's so unusual, but anyway, so I'm not sure that if we fix it in one block, you don't just throw it to another. I'd like to think that with the weather particularly, that the Falls Trail is not going to be as popular, and with the heat, that it's not going to be as popular, and that hopefully with the Mitchell Canyon parking lot, which has capacity for a whole lot of cars, reopening for this next weekend, that maybe that'll take some pressure off. But we got to let people know that that parking lot is open, and I don't count on the park themselves to do that. So a couple of thoughts. Tuya and then CW.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I lost my connection for a little bit. I missed a couple of minutes, so I have no idea what you guys spoke for the last couple of minutes. But so to me, this is sort of a two-part question. One is the long-term aspect, and one is the short-term aspect. For the long-term, I think we're planned to look at it again at the end of this year when the pilot program is approaching its end. So I think we initially agreed that we're going to study the whole entire program and everything related to it, including the areas that are involved during the pilot program, and then have a comprehensive discussion when we have enough data to figure out what's the right permanent solution. So I'm going to park the long-term issues until we, have all the data in front of us and have that discussion. In terms of short-term, the problem frustration I have tonight is that we're trying to do something very quickly to help the residents that are impacted by the parking issues that have increased with COVID-19. And I think, what we did last month with Regency and Rialto was, I think the request for us was to expand the program to not only include weekends, but to be essentially a 24/7 program. And that's what we did. And we were able to implement that very quickly. I think the signs went up the next day. So I think our staff was very quick in getting that in place. And I think the residents saw an immediate improvement once the program went 24/7. I did, as part of that decision, we did discuss the end of Regency and what to do with that. And I think it's working quite well the way it is right now. So I'm a little bit hesitant to change that. In terms of, so what I did here is when CW was talking about opening the Clayton Community Park, the lower parking lot, and I really like that idea. I drive, because I live in Regency Meadows, I haven't been driving that much lately, but I drive past on the Regency Marsh Creek Road intersection whenever I get out of my home. And I've seen hikers even at the very top right there, I think trying to park maybe at the park. So I do think that is definitely something we can do very immediately, and something that I think would be helpful. In terms of the Mountain Air, it sounds like there's no short-term, no quick fix here. I mean, anything we do because of the signage and the limitations in applying permits is going to be at least 3 months out. So I don't think that's going to help the residents in short term. So, I don't know that there's any other solutions there. In terms of added signage as well, I think that would be helpful at the bottom of the hill. So I missed a little bit in between, but that's where I think I'm at right now.
CW?
To you sounded like Cher there for a minute. Chief, I guess I have to ask you, I know a couple of meetings ago I asked for the lighted sign, and you were going to look into the lighted, whatever they call that, traffic sign to direct traffic. Whatever happened to that?
So I looked around the county to see if we could borrow one, and I could not. They cost $1,000 a month to rent, and they cost about $15,000 to purchase.
Ouch! We need a grant.
Yeah. So that's where it left off.
Okay.
We need all the kids that are making signs for the parades to do some.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it would be ideal if we had something at the entrance to Clayton or somewhere directing traffic to where it needs to go, wherever we decide tonight it needs to go. Certainly the parking lot being reopened on Friday. And we were talking about the heat here. The heat's going to continue until, at least in this area, until Thursday, breaking on Friday, and then supposedly supposed to drizzle or something on Saturday. So that may change things. But if we can do something where we direct traffic to where they actually can park, I think that would certainly help. And going back to just the original idea here is that, if we were to do these 6 houses, and it's going to take several months or whatever, without doing something for the rest of the neighborhood and getting their sign in on it, I think that's going to create more of a hardship than a help.
Yeah, that would seem like a half measure. I do like your idea of the community, the lower half of the community park. It's a good one. I would go for that.
I would support that too. I had a couple of other thoughts. Following on with CW's comment about letting people know about the parking at the Mitchell Canyon entrance, even a couple of barricades with signs on them at the Mitchell Canyon Clayton Road intersection to say Mitchell Canyon parking lot to Mount Diablo State Park open, something like that. You'd have to figure out how to word it more precisely than that so it would be readable.
A parking lot with an arrow.
Yeah. Well, Mount Diablo State parking lot open. Because I'll tell you, Steve and I did a virtual fundraiser a couple of weeks ago, and we walked down and from our house all the way down and into the park. And there were so many cars that went down there and flipped around and came roaring back out. obviously irritated that the parking lot was closed. So letting people know that that parking lot has reopened would be probably helpful just through signage, even if somebody's not reading anything else. The other question I had, and this goes to both the chief and to our attorney, is there any way that we could do an urgency resident only parking by registration? Could we implement that just to put on a barricade resident only parking and then not a permit parking, just say resident only? And then, yeah, the guys are going to have to check the license, registration, but could that work?
Well, I think mechanically, I still have a problem with how to sign that because, if you're talking A-frames, do I put the A-frames on the sidewalk or in the street or on somebody's property? The other idea I had, and this is something for the city attorney, other cities have closed streets to non-residents and made them walking only except for residents. And initially I thought, maybe that could work here, but, I just don't know the legality. It's kind of along the lines of what you're saying, but the barricade would theoretically be at the top of the street. It said no traffic except for residents. But I don't know the legality behind that.
I mean, I don't see, so you're saying just putting, like operationally, how would that work from staff's perspective?
I guess the sign would be kind of towards the middle of the street that the residents could get around it that would say residents only. But, while I think it might work, now we're pushing traffic onto Mount Sierra and Mount Trinity. So it goes back to the idea of if we solve the problem for 6 homes, we're creating problems on the other, close by streets. So.
Right. My only concern is that in terms of being equitable to the other residents, I think if we were to create, that sort of a process, but then, with the permit program that we have in place, that has its own sets of procedures. And so if we're going to, require payments and things like that for one set, and then we're going to implement another set of procedures, I think that would be one of my concerns.
And just to add from a staff perspective, when you say resident only, because we have shelter in place and a lot of the colleges are closed and the kids have come home from school and they might have been out of state and registered in another state with their vehicle, like my niece, who's at home, how do you ascertain that if you're going by resident only? They may be actually physically in another place, or another family member, maybe extended family, an elderly parent may be staying with the family that has a car registered to another address. So it'd be a question about the permit system solves that, because then only the people that get a permit regardless of where their car's registered.
Okay.
And when we're talking about those street things, when I read them, they were mostly about closing the entire street to vehicular traffic in total. Not like, I didn't know if I didn't see any that were just resident only. I've seen a bunch that say no cars at all. So I don't think that's what we're contemplating though, because people got to get out.
And I don't think that's what the residents are at, because I'm looking at the petition, the first two bullets, are really addressing the concern that they can't leave and then park in their home or have visitors park on Mountaineer Parkway.
Yeah. I don't think that works that well, or it's not a good fit for the issue.
Do we actually have to enforce it? Is if we had signs up, let's say at Mount Everest and Mount Air Parkway, saying from this point on residents only, wouldn't the threat of it alone deter at least some of the traffic? No, you don't think so? No?
Don't make a threat that you're not willing to carry out.
Well, I mean, come on! It's happening with the COVID thing every day. You saw the people out on.
Yeah, I will share.
No
with
laws unless you're willing to enforce them.
Yeah, but
I like the mayor did drive up to the Mitchell Canyon parking lot area all the way out to the, and where it said no parking in red curb, there was lots of cars parked there. They all had nice little pieces of paper under their windshield wiper from the county sheriff's department. And cars were still pulling up parking there, seeing that people had gotten tickets and still illegally parked on Mitchell Canyon.
They were.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve and I saw lots of those too.
So
And
I hope that
it would also,
sign will be a deterrent.
it would prompt a lot of calls for police response, and then we would be able to do nothing, which would upset the residents.
Right. Right. Okay, so as an interim measure, because a permit parking program is going to take a while to get in place, we've got to at least, maybe what we should do in the interim is see about opening up the lower parking lot at the Clayton Community Park. And on Friday, they'll be done on Thursday at the school, right, Chief? Okay. Open that one up on Friday. And then perhaps we could put signs at the bottom of both Regency and Mount Air Parkway that parking is available in the parking lot at Regency and Marsh Creek Road in the lower parking lot by the Clayton Community Park, and that the parking lot at Mitchell Canyon and the state park is now open as of Friday as well. And then if we can put on a barricade or two at the intersection of Mitchell Canyon and Clayton Road, that the Mitchell Canyon parking lot for the park is open as of Friday. Maybe that will at least temporarily divert some traffic. Can anybody else think of something temporarily that we can do to help these folks before we maybe ask staff to investigate the cost of a permit-only parking program for Mount Air?
Well, again, I think when you're talking about the permit parking for Mount Air, you're talking about an organization of various streets around Mount Air, correct?
Yeah, the vicinity.
Yeah, much like they did on Regency, they came to us with a very concrete plan of what they wanted and where. I think that has to be done here.
Yeah, I am concerned that if we go ahead and do this, then the next one that's going to be screaming is going to be Weatherly.
Well, Trinity and all of that.
Well, but I mean, it's going to trickle down lower in both of those subdivisions if we can't get something fixed. And then if we can ask staff as well as getting some ideas of cost per sign, because we have to install them if we're going to do them on the Mount Air side, so that we know, and if there's a bulk rate, who knows, and get an idea of what it might cost to implement that and bring that back to us, what, next month?
Mayor, just
Yes.
in order to get cost, we have to define the area.
Right.
So the cost of the signs for the Regency Rialto was about $15,000. So if you take the same mileage, street length, you could go with that. But I think the first step in exploring the Dana Hills permit parking possibilities is defining the area. And then from there, we can get the cost estimates.
I agree. And we're going to have to add poles and installation, not just signs this time.
Correct.
So
it was $15,000 for poles and signs.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay. CW?
But don't we have to fully understand and study the Regency parking permit program to know how much actual spillover went to Mount Air? I mean, like I said in the beginning, this may be just a COVID problem, a shelter-in-place problem, or a parking lot problem. Once these things open up, this may all go away unless we know that this has all been shifted over to Mount Air from Regency on a long-term basis.
I would fully agree. I think for the long-term look, when the pilot program.
Kind of lost
Breaking
you.
up to you.
I can't make it out.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think coming back in a month is too soon.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we need a few months to see if those other factors work themselves out.
And given the governor's comments today, I listened to his noon address. We are getting closer. No, we're not there yet, Jeff. We're getting there. But it may be that this will resolve. It's been increasing. We heard in the email we got today. It's been increasing over the last couple of years. We know that. And we may still need to do something, but we also need to try to push Mount Diablo State Park to carry their share of the burden too.
I mean, at the end of the pilot program, if it turns out that we need to reopen the end of Regency and take a look at all of the data that we received, and how much complaining have we had from the residents of Mount Air prior to the shelter in place. I mean, all of that has to factor into what we're going to do on that side of the Mount Air side.
Chief, do you have any just sort of gut instinct on how much complaint we got before all of this shutdown from the virus changed the activity levels?
On the Monterre side,
Right.
very little.
Yeah.
And even through the process with public comment, as we worked through the Regency Rialto Drive, we had very little participation. There was a few, but not many.
Yeah, I know I've talked with at least one of the residents up there and asked if they were in favor of this kind of thing. And they said they didn't find it a problem because they always park in their own driveway. But, not everybody does that. And so that at least is a temporary measure for those folks. If they're going to have company, it's like the same thing we told the folks on Regency. If you're expecting company, park in front of your own house. Leave your driveway for the company. I mean, I don't know, it's not an ideal solution, but it's better than nothing.
If the council's interested, one of the things that we could do at the end of Monterre Parkway is put up an informational sign like we did at the end of Regency about the location of the state park. That doesn't do anything with permit system, but just to help educate individuals about the other option. And we can certainly see where, and if we don't have the right of way, it would be something I would, if the council's interested, I would then move to having a dialogue with the Dana Hills HOA, because they pretty much have the land on the other side of that barricade. And, they could put up the sign in that area if they wanted to help educate people that there is another parking lot available like we did at the end of Regency. You could do that without a permit program in place.
Right. And to tell people that the parking lot at the Clayton Community Park at the intersection of Regency and Marsh Creek Road.
Well, that could be done with barricades, but I meant a permanent sign like we did at the end of Regency. We could still do that also from Monterre without a permit system if we wanted, if the council is interested in trying to provide some sort of information out there on a long-term basis.
Okay. So where are we?
That sounds like a reasonable suggestion that Laura has just made.
We have a resolution in front of us. I don't think we can adopt that tonight to put in place a residential parking permit program. We don't have enough information to do that.
Yeah,
No, the resolution is to amend, like it's a multi-part, right? It's to amend one.
Amend one and to do one for that one area.
Yeah.
I'm going to reiterate. I'm not in favor of amending the Regency sign.
What I heard from the council was it seemed to be fairly unanimous. You wanted to not mess with or tamper with the existing permit parking system and leave the COVID provisions in place at the end of Regency until we see more unloosening and changing of regulations. go ahead and open up the lower parking lot and allow that for, and direct people there as a parking option. And we would do that on Friday after the school's finished with their drive-through promotion activity. And we could put up some signs directing people and educating them about those locations, at least on barricades, and at the state park opening their parking lot at Clayton Road and Mitchell Canyon. And then I believe Jeff Wan and I think Vice Mayor Wan and the rest of the council was encouraging the rest of the residents to work together in Mitchell, Monterey, to kind of find what would be a boundary area, natural boundary area for future consideration by the council of a permit system. And that would take its own time course because you've already got a pilot program in place and you want to see the results of that. But it may take months or, for that neighborhood to also get together their information.
Yeah, I would just say that I agree except for that last part. We don't need to wait till the end of the pilot program. I mean, we have enough information right now. If 100% of the residents came in on some affected areas and said, this is what we want to do, and they were very clear on that, I would support doing that right now. So it's just a question of them getting organized, I think, and putting forth a solid proposal. And I think that we should consider it when it's received, as long as it's in a satisfactory state. I don't think we need to wait. We have a lot of feedback from the people on Regency. We have less feedback from the folks on Mount Terror, but for the folks on Regency, it's virtually unanimous. Even the people that hated it in the beginning, that wanted to sue us all over the place, like it. So I feel like we have sufficient data to act if we so chose.
So Jeff,
get together. So I'd recommend they get together and then let's make it happen.
Jeff, are you suggesting that we would do a permit before we finalize the discussions on the pilot program for Regency? I would think that you'd want to do those together.
Yeah, we could. I would say that we don't need to wait until December to finalize the pilot program if we say that we want to make it permanent. We don't need to wait for that. We can preemptively just say, we've had enough data, we've seen the results, and we're satisfied with the results, and let's do it. We don't need to wait till December. I would say we should just not be on the bubble for so long. I mean, if we have enough, unless something dramatically changes from now till, what month is this? From now till December, I don't see how there's going to be that much of a difference. But, we could let it run its course. That's fine. But again, it's not a requirement. We can make a change if we want to. And I'd be willing to do that if that's what we want to do at a future meeting.
But given the fact that there has been a dramatic change, doesn't that skew the data that we're looking at? Because, I mean, you were mentioning that people who are against this are for it now, and that's because we're now at 24/7 restriction, and we also have the end of Regency closed, which has become quite favorable in some people's minds.
Sure.
I would think that is a dramatic shift, and that for us to I think we need to discount the part that's the COVID, that's the shelter-in-place order.
Oh yeah. I'm not talking about the extra COVID piece. I'm not talking about the extension of the time. I mean, I'm talking about just what was initially the pilot, excluding the world is weird now kind of thing.
Although I would say that I think the reason why we had a pilot program, we had it, the pilot program lasting for more than a year, is because we wanted to get a year's worth of data at least, so that we run through the different seasons, because the use of those streets is also impacted by the time of year. So I would still...
Yeah, we were going for the cycle.
The program has only been placed since October 1, so we're just, 7 months right now, 7-8 months. So I don't know. I do think that there's a long-term discussion we need to have. I would love to have the discussion when we have all the data in front of us.
And I think we're going to have to wait for a little while after things open back up to get a little bit more balanced idea. I mean, it's been closed during waterfall season, I mean, and it's still a mess. So I don't know how much more we're going to learn.
And that all being said, I'm sorry, Julie, that all being said, I guess the opposite end of this coin is Mount Air. And what are these residents going to do with their organization? What are they going to come to us with? And Jeff, like you said, I'd be willing to entertain anything if they organize and they have a majority and they have a clear idea of what it is that they want. I'm certainly willing to give them, the kind of relief we talked about with Regency, if that's what we can do for them. So I just think right now it's just too early for 6 houses to dictate what's happening in that entire area.
Yeah, but it's going to have to be more than just those 6 houses. It's going to overflow. That's why they need to get together, and they have an organized group with their homeowners association to sit down and discuss that.
Well, that is something that they will need to discuss too, is with their homeowners association, if the homeowners association has any concerns about that.
Absolutely.
Technically, it's a public street. We own the street. So the homeowners association can't say that we can't institute something, but maybe they come up with something too. Maybe they can actually help.
And when we were doing the pilot program, we did have some discussion, of the type of data and the type of things we'd want to know if we were to institute a permanent program. So I would encourage the residents of Montanair to look at some of the minutes for the and the documents we had for the when we first did the pilot program, because I think there was some good info there too as to what to put together in terms of a petition and package. But I in terms of tonight's action, I do like the immediate steps that we discussed, the community parking lot opening, and as was all mentioned, summarized by Laura. So I would definitely support moving forward on that tonight.
The other thing is, just real quick, since we're meeting, is it next Tuesday, right? We're meeting. I mean, we should know by next Tuesday if even just these few days had any effect whatsoever.
Yeah, that's a small sample. That's a small sample size.
It is. It is very small.
Yeah.
It's a very small sample. But if there's all of a sudden there's some change because there are 2 parking lots open.
We can certainly monitor that, and the chief can give you a verbal update if she's available for that meeting, just to let you know how it's trending.
Can't hurt. Okay. Any other comments?
Just a question from staff. I want to make sure we're clear about the Montanair Park.
Oh, you froze.
We've lost her.
It depends on the signal.
They were to organize and get together. I still didn't hear any.
Yeah, you were frozen. Start over.
Okay. If the council's interested in entertaining Montanair Parkway, if they were to organize and do what's needed and bring in materials, do you want that advanced to your city council prior to the conclusion of the Regency pilot? That's not clear to staff.
I'm not sure.
I would say yes.
Jeff says yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should entertain that. Like I said, if they come in organized and they have some concrete data, we need to also find out, and they said this before, what were the complaints? What was the growing traffic there over the last several months before the shelter in place took effect? I mean, maybe it wasn't that much of a problem.
It didn't seem to be.
Yeah.
And so the question is, has it just been the virus, everybody being home, the state parking lot being closed, every day's a Saturday? How much of that is
24/7 and 24/7 restrictions on Regency?
Yeah, I think the level of support in the nearby areas will be the most telling piece of information regarding the magnitude of the problem. If the problem is very significant over an extended period of time, you're going to get a lot of support. If most people are like, whatever, then I think that will be very telling. And so that's why I think having those other nearby areas be a part of it is helpful.
Absolutely. I think what staff's trying to get an understanding of is the council's last direction was to do the pilot program and not to entertain other neighborhood requests until the pilot had concluded. Are you still of that mindset? Or if there was another neighborhood group that, got together, did their numbers and came in and presented that to the chief, are we to move that forward before the pilot program is over for the council's review?
I think the pilot program on Regency is the pilot program on Regency. If someone else comes to us with an organization and problems and everything else, I think it's incumbent upon us to take a look at it, as opposed to just saying, well, I mean, we should still find out what's going on in Regency because we have to make a permanent decision.
Right.
But that's a totally separate item to me. That's
And
why,
I agree with that. I don't want to wait until, the end of that study and leave these folks hanging in the air. But I think that they'll come up with I think they'll be motivated to come up with piece parts of a plan or an entire plan.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to tell some group of people to wait just because someone else got there first.
Yeah.
So I would definitely, I did not wait all the way until the end of the pilot program to entertain the Mountaineer, but I do think that at this bit early, and I do think that these two particular streets and areas are linked together as well. And I think my internet connection is going away. Can you hear me?
We got
yeah,
most
we
of
heard you.
that. We got most of that, although your signal is fading in and out.
Yeah.
Thank you. That clarifies the situation for staff.
Okay. Do you think you have adequate direction? Do you need us to amend this resolution?
No, the resolution was there for you to take action on should you want to make changes to as we talked about the Regency, and that you want to status quo that for right now. We will move forward with the other direction you've given us.
Okay. Chief, do you have any questions or suggestions at this point?
No, I think we should try the parking lots and such and see what happens. I mean, the only other immediate relief would be to roll back the permit area from the end of Regency, but I think we should try opening up, the state park, opening up the community park parking lot, putting some signs up and seeing what that does before we do anything else.
and do we need to come up with some kind of a budget to put up a permanent sign to direct people to the parking lot, or do we have that?
No, those paper signs are.
No, I don't mean the paper. I mean a more permanent sign that, like Laura was talking about earlier, with regard to directing people to the parking lot.
We can handle that under the budget. I think it was just a couple $100 that we did it before.
Yeah, it's just the one metal sign at the bottom of.
Right.
Without the state park logo on it.
Right.
Hey, let's put the Giants logo on it. It'll be. Maybe we can get them to sponsor it.
I know this is not a perfect solution, and Judy, we're working for you. We're trying to make this work. I hope that when the restrictions are lifted and the parking lots are open, that the end of Mount Terre Parkway is going to go pretty much back to normal, and that we won't need to do anything. If we do, it takes a while to get it done, and we need to define the scope first. So hopefully the residents can get together and figure that out, maybe even go to the homeowners association and see if the homeowners association can be of some assistance in putting this together. So staff, I would say come back to us when you think you have something. We maybe just a verbal report on limited observations for this next weekend. The weather's going to change. That'll make a difference one way or another. Who knows? But on the other hand, technically school's out. So that might make a difference too. So, okay. Anybody else need any more direction?
Good.
Okay. All right. Any comments from our city attorney? We're good?
I think we're good. So no adoption of that resolution or amending of that.
No.
Okay.
No,
okay.
Not yet. I don't think we're quite there yet.
Okay.
Okay. Very good. Then I am looking for my agenda. I do not think we have anything else on our agenda this evening. We've given direction. So at this point, we are adjourned to our meeting next Tuesday, June 2nd. So we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. We'll get it smoother the next time.